Welcome to the Ben Buzz, and I'm Benny King, and what an incredible week of college football. We had talked about it last week when we had Jack on the program that there was no way this week could disappoint, and oh my goodness, like this was one of the best weeks of college football I've ever witnessed. Not only the ranked matchups, but I mean across the board, it was just so phenomenal. And there was a great range of upsets, a great range of ranked wins, and just really close matchups, a couple of overtime games. It was really interesting, and it was really awesome. I mean, it really was a great weekend of college football. And once again, Jack's going to be joining the program. I mean, Jack, what an incredible week we witnessed.
Yeah, for sure. It absolutely was. It's one of the best weeks of the year. I think it is the best week of the year, and
It'd
it
have to be.
definitely didn't disappoint. This is the most hyped week. I know week 4 was pretty hyped.
Right.
That one kind of fell short a little bit, but this one really lives it up to the expectations, especially with the ranked mess ups. So yeah, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, of course. And it wasn't just the ranked matchups, and it wasn't just the great games, but there were a lot of underdog teams that ended up coming out on top. And I mean, just across the board, like if you go through this, you'd be hard pressed to find a game that wasn't that exciting. Like just about every game was very interesting, very compelling. And as we said, several overtime games and upsets. So let's get into it. We had now number 18 Florida State going on the road at number 24 Virginia. This was a very interesting game. Florida State was ranked very high at this point, and I mean, the upset hungry Virginia Cavaliers. I mean, they got them at home. It was a nightcap game, and they rushed the field. I mean, very interesting. And they were leading into this game, like the night before, like all of a sudden the line like closed in where it was only Florida State by like 10, and that moved to 6. So it was like something's going on here. And Virginia, I mean, that home environment, late night, and they caught Florida State slipping on the road, Jack.
Yeah, they definitely did, and we should have known it was going to be a great week of college football when like the Friday games really lived up and like just set the tone for the weekend for sure. But yeah, this was a great game. Um, Definitely some mistakes by either team, and both capitalized. 3 turnovers by each team, um, and yeah, this was a great game. And This was an overtime game, and the Florida State they barely even made it to overtime. It was a fourth down play, and Castellanos
Right.
barely made it just to get there. And there was a controversial call with a bobbled catch um,
Right.
after Virginia scored their touchdown. Um, what did you think about that? Did you think that was a catch?
I I wasn't too sure. It does look like he caught it. Where like he when he starts to make the catch, it was pretty early into the end zone, but he bobbled it so far out, and they were saying
Yeah.
that it was still moving, but it felt like by the time he was getting close to going out, felt like he had already corralled it, where it was kind of moving just kind of between his hands, and like the last ditch where he's going out of bounds, it feels like he was just kind of securing it, like tucking it.
Hmm.
I'm not entirely sure if I
Right.
agree. It just sucks. It sucks to end the game on like a play like that too, because they
Right.
ended up not even being able to get the first down when they could have had that touchdown. Where it's just like,
Right.
I don't know. I mean, it kind of does. I get what they're coming from with the ball moving, but I mean, it kind of looked like a catch to me. But I don't know, Jack.
Yeah, it was an interesting call. It could have gone both ways, but it was weird because he started the process of the catch like
Right.
before he even got to the end zone, and he like bobbled it for so long. It's interesting that he couldn't make that catch earlier. But yeah, and he couldn't like change directions either. It just sucks because you know, I mean, yeah, it sucks that that's the way it ended, but it was still a great game.
Right. And maybe at that point, once you start bobbling it, maybe you just got to like go down while you're in the end zone because he ended up running out, and that's what they're saying. I don't know. It kind of sucks to end the game on that, but I don't think it
Yeah,
ruined it. I mean, double overtime and ended up being 38-46. I mean, Virginia really just played a great game. And I mean, Virginia's
yeah,
really underrated. Their only loss was NC State, who's not terrible. I know it's not like a super highly touted team, but like they're decently solid, and they really did prove it. I mean, a home game against Florida State, and they won. And it's funny because just a few years ago, just a few weeks ago, Florida State rushed their own field against Alabama in that huge upset, and then now it comes back on them a few weeks later, And Virginia, I mean, Virginia is kind of a weird one. They're kind of similar to Georgia Tech, where I feel like they're kind of one of those ACC teams that's always an underdog, that's always counted out. And they end up upsetting great teams. Where if you remember a few years ago when they beat Drake May and the North Carolina Tar Heels, when they were very much in a playoff situation in that year, where it's like Virginia, Georgia Tech, like these ACC programs, they're really great, and especially at home. Like I mean, it's really awesome that we have these types of upsets and the way they're able to steal it. It really sucks for Florida State. I still think they're pretty solid, but I mean, Virginia's good, and I think they definitely really deserve that number 24 ranking, Jack.
Yeah, 100%. I agree. And they definitely proved it. I mean, to beat a team like that, even in your own home environment, is very impressive. And we'll have to see how good Florida State is. I mean, I still think they're a very good team and they still have playoff hopes.
Right,
Um, and they did get dropped 10 spots. We'll get into that later about the AP poll, but I still think this. I mean, Mike Norvell is a great coach. He's going to get those guys ready,
right.
and that's just a tough environment. You know, you're going to lose those games sometimes, and you just have to roll with the punches sometimes.
Right. Yeah, I definitely agree. And it really just shows it's really tough to play on the road in your own conference with those rivals. Then we had, continuing with Friday as well, we had TCU going on the road at number 25, Arizona State. Now, at the time, TCU was ranked, Arizona State was not. But me and you had kind of called this one because this wasn't a huge surprise. Arizona State was at home, probably should have been ranked anyway, and their only loss was against a very great Mississippi State team on the road. So Arizona State wins 27-24. Wasn't that shocked by it? I still like TCU, but Arizona State's pretty good, Jack.
Yeah, they definitely are. This actually was. I mean, I was with you in picking Arizona State for this game, but TCU
Right.
completely controlled this. 17-0 lead, and then they
Mm-hmm.
just kind of let it go. Um, and then in the second half, um, I mean, Arizona State doubled their yards pretty much. They had 498 total yards and then 269 yards for TCU. So very like they kind of just let it go in the second half. And
Right.
Arizona State, this is crazy. They held them to 10 yards rushing. TCU could not get anything to go on the ground game.
Wow.
Um,
Yes.
yeah. And then like in the fourth quarter, Arizona State, they had that PI and they moved them and then they scored. And then when TCU got the ball back, they got a strip sack on Josh Hoover. And then Arizona State got the ball back, went up by 3, and then TCU throws the pick to ice the game. So they kind of just threw it away. I mean, they completely had this one, um, and they just couldn't keep the lead. It was interesting.
Right. Yeah, and I had kind of thought, oh, like maybe Arizona State wasn't as good as we thought when TCU kind of started that way, but then Arizona State slowly clawed back into it and eventually ended up turning the game around. Similar to how they kind of did against Baylor as well, where Arizona State is an interesting team to look out for because they brought Sam Levitt back, the quarterback, and Kenny Dillingham still a decently solid coach, but they did lose Cam Scadaboo, who was like the heart of that team and a real
Right,
reason why they really should have beat Texas in that playoff
right,
game. It's like
right.
Arizona State, as good as I think they are, obviously TCU had their chances, and maybe you say they should have won this game, but Arizona State was definitely good enough to be in this game, and they capitalized on TCU's mistakes, and good teams do that. And I think they do deserve that ranking. We'll see if we see TCU come back in the rankings because that's not a bad loss. Arizona State has been pretty hungry since that Mississippi State loss, and they beat a solid Baylor team, and now a really good TCU team at home, Jack.
Yeah, absolutely. And Sonny Dykes is a good coach. He's had an
Right.
amazing seasons before, so I don't expect any less from them. And this is a tough loss for sure, especially with that lead coming out of it. But yeah, I still have faith in them for sure.
Right. Yeah. It was a very interesting matchup in the Big 12 there. And coming from a team that was unranked, that had not really been like embarrassed because we know how good Mississippi State was, but in the eyes of the
Hmm.
AP poll and maybe the general public, that's kind of how it was, which is kind of similar to this next game where we had Illinois last week and they got obliterated by Indiana. It was pretty
Right.
embarrassing, but they still got the benefit of the doubt and were still ranked. going into this game against USC, who was 21 in the country, I believe. This was very interesting because, as we said, Illinois got really embarrassed the week before. So I didn't give them much
Hmm.
of a chance in this one, which I was kind of thinking like, well, I mean, maybe they come back home and maybe they get it done. But it's like after they lose like that, it's hard to bode really any confidence. And USC
Right.
have been doing so well where you didn't really think this is how this game would turn out. And we'll see. Maybe that Indiana game was just a fluke because then Illinois was able to beat USC 34-32. And I know they
Hmm.
had to get like a game-winning field goal to win it, but like they were winning for a lot of this game too. Like Illinois really played great. I didn't see this coming from them, Jack.
No, I didn't. I mean, who could have? I mean, with that just atrocious loss
Right.
last week, very embarrassing. But yeah, they put together a great game. They almost let USC back in the game, um, and I think USC is still a great team. I mean, Makai Lemon is one of the best receivers. I mean, he had 2 touchdowns, and there was a trick play. He got called back for ineligible man downfield, but he almost had a third. He's just really impressive, and it's like a two-man wrecking crew with him and Mayava. And this offense is great. I mean, we've seen it all year with Lincoln Riley. This is really, you can tell that he's running the show
Mhm.
for sure. And it's not
Right.
just Caleb Williams running for his life, really. And there's
Right.
really structure to that offense. And this is an okay loss for them. I think Illinois is still a good team. I don't
Right.
understand them really being ranked last week and this week,
Right.
because that loss is just too bad for them to even be on something like that. But we'll get into that. But this just proved that Illinois can still put together and just have adversity, just coming off of that loss, for sure. And you saw like after the game
Mhm.
where the fans were rushing the field, but they were like kind of reluctant to. They were kind of like just being slow about it because they got so embarrassed last week. Like,
Right.
coming into this with the preseason expectations this season,
Right.
this was like a give me win. You got, well, they
Exactly.
obviously have USC, um, and they
They would,
almost
but
gave it
they would
away.
have been favored prior to this. Is what you're saying? Yeah.
Right, exactly. Yeah, prior to the Indiana game. Yeah,
Right. Yeah, and I mean, this was just a tough draw for USC when you really think about it, because that Illinois team, like, it really is just showing that they're a team that is able to respond from that type of loss and to have that type of team discipline, where now they come back and now they're at home against a tough USC team, where it's like that's really a tough draw. It's like USC has to go on the road against an Illinois team that has everything to prove, so that's very tricky, and you can kind of see how this result ended up. And I mean, I still think Illinois is a decent team, but it's like that loss last week. I mean, that loss against Indiana, it's going to take a while to
yeah,
kind of scrub that from our memories. Where like it was really just uncalled for and like unprecedented on their part, because like they were projected top 10 for a while, and even though we had kind of said that they shouldn't, and then that we kind of like drop them a little bit, but like they weren't supposed to lose that bad, and like with how they
no,
did is it really is still egregious. Where it's like
yeah,
the fact that they were able to come back and respond in a way like this, and not just in a win. I was even thinking like it would be great if they were close, but it's like the fact that they were able to get this win is huge, and they really did need to get back on track, Jack.
yeah. They definitely did. This definitely means a lot, and
Right.
there's still a lot of questions raised about that team. I mean, obviously with the loss like that, but this just showed that they can still fling that thing, and Luke
Mhm.
Altmaier can still be a great quarterback. So yeah,
Right. Yeah, I agree. And I mean, that was a very interesting matchup with two teams that uh, were in the top 25 at the time, but USC ended up dropping out. And we had another really interesting matchup where we had number 21 Notre Dame, another team that is similar to Illinois, where it feels like they have everything to prove, and they went on the road against Arkansas. Now, going into this one, it was pretty interesting. It's like Arkansas played pretty well against Ole Miss and Memphis, both
hmm,
very solid teams. So it was like, and now they're at home. They host Notre Dame, who's lost twice already. So it was a little interesting going into it. Even though I didn't pick Arkansas to win this one, I was like, could be tricky for the Fighting Irish, but they put that to bed really, really early. I mean, 56-13 is a statement. They're saying, "Hey, like we're still here, we're still this good." How would you how would you describe this win for them? How integral was it to their season going forward, Jack? Especially to respond from those losses.
yeah, this is huge for Notre Dame. I mean, after those first two losses and that bye week on the week two, this was just huge.
Right.
Um, and Jeremiah Love, I mean, wow, 4 touchdowns in the first half, two receiving, two rushing. We were kind of talking about
Right.
like earlier in the year, they're not really getting him going. And he was so
Right.
huge last year, and he was
I
like
know.
one of the main reasons why they even made the Natty.
Right.
Um,
Especially that playoff run. Yeah.
right, that was insane. I mean, just him bounce. I mean, every single run he had was like a movie.
Right.
Um,
I mean, you watch his highlights
yeah,
against Penn State last year. It's insane.
right.
Especially, I know if you're thinking of the one I'm thinking of, where he was just unstoppable. He's really
I think
special.
I know which one. Yeah, he is. He absolutely is. And he showed it against Arkansas. I mean, like he just there was no stopping him, and this is great for them. And I don't mind them being ranked. I know we were kind of going crazy. I mean, they shouldn't have been ranked after losing two losses, but they
Right.
beat an unranked opponent, and then Arkansas. This really gets them back on track, and puts their season forward. And I still think this makes them a contender for me. I know Arkansas has that's the third straight loss, and their coach
Right.
Sam Pittman just got fired. That's the most recent coach firing,
Right.
along with Mike Gundy last week,
Yeah.
Brent Pry from Virginia Tech, and Deshaun Foster from UCLA. So,
Mm.
which makes sense. I mean, Arkansas they started out 2-0, but just three straight losses are just ugly. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah,
Right.
it's not looking good for them, especially this one. This one was probably the worst. Um, Notre Dame's a great team, of course, but especially at home to lose this bad,
Right.
um, it's not good for Arkansas.
Right.
But
It's like their best achievement so far is like, well, we almost beat number 13 Ole Miss in the road. It's like, well, we almost beat Memphis. So it's like that's all they could
right,
really hold their hat on. And
right,
then this one where it's like at least they were in those games. This was rough. I mean, and you're at home too. And I think Notre Dame is really good. And I know maybe they should be in the later 20s in the rankings, but overall, like if they were to play some of those other teams, I don't say like with certainty that those teams would win. I just think it's like on a resume basis, they should be towards the end. But like that team was in
right.
the national championship last year.
Yeah,
And I know they had some changes. I know they had to swap out a quarterback, and I get that, but it's like they were just in the title. So as
they
much as
were.
we want to push them down, I think they do deserve some respect. And at least going forward, we'll see where the quality wins end up being because we're like, man, they lost like the two most important games with A&M and Miami, where it's like where the quality win's going to be. Thought that it was going to be USC. Now USC is unranked. Maybe they'll get back ranked before that game, but it's like Notre Dame. That's the biggest problem because it's like they could go 10-2 and still miss it because they don't really have any quality wins left on the schedule, Jack.
Right. I mean, it just sucks for them because this is a really talented team. And I
Right,
know they can still like put together a championship run for sure. Um,
right,
so yeah, I mean, this just shows that Arkansas is probably the weakest link in the SEC. Um, even Kentucky's
right,
look better than them. Um,
right. And
but
even the team
yeah,
that's
not
really bad,
looking.
Vanderbilt, is really stunning this year. So yeah,
Oh yeah, Vanderbilt's probably. I mean, along with Ole Miss and Alabama and Georgia, I think they're probably
right,
top four. I mean, it's hard to argue that they're out of that.
right,
Yeah,
yeah. And I mean, you're talking about a Notre Dame team where their best win on their schedule could be at home against Navy. So it's really, and no shade at Navy, but
right.
it's probably not going to be a ranked win because they don't really respect the American. So it probably won't be a
Yeah,
ranked win. It won't be looked at like that, where it's like, I mean, maybe they just end up putting them back in the playoffs, but like they don't have a conference championship to fall back on.
right,
That's the problem with being independent, where it's like it was great for them that the playoffs got extended, so then they could end up losing maybe a time or two and still be able to slip in there. But it's like once you lost against the only two good, like really good teams that you played, I don't know if they make it back to that playoff, especially with a lot of top teams. Like if there's like a 10-2 team, if there's a 10-2 team from the LSU that has beaten a ranked team, and then there's Notre Dame who hasn't, like how do you argue that Notre Dame should jump them? It's just there's going to be a lot of teams from the SEC and the Big Ten and the ACC that are just going to be like, well, they've beaten a ranked team. Where's their ranked win? Where it's like, man, that really sucks for them that they don't already have one. Because I mean, they probably should have against Texas A&M. If you saw that game, probably should have
Hmm.
won that game, but
Right.
then it's like it really is like resume based where it's like, yeah, maybe they're a top 10 team. Yeah, maybe they're a top 20 team. Maybe they should be in the 12-team playoff, but it's like on a resume basis, I don't know how they're going to jump some of these teams, Jack, especially if they don't
Yeah.
lose.
Yeah, it's going to be really tough. I mean, they're going to probably have to win out.
Oh
I don't
yeah, that's
see
that's out of the question. Yeah,
that's a given. Yeah, and you're
right,
going to need definitely some teams to lose, and just hope that they just look at those because they are two good losses, and you're just going to hope. I mean, Miami and Texas A&M keep doing good. They're probably going to hope that they just stay in the top 10, just so those
right,
losses keep looking better and better. Um,
right.
but I hope this doesn't kick them out because this team is just so fun to watch, and it's better when they're
I know,
in the mix for sure, especially last year.
right.
So yeah, see what's going on with them moving forward.
Right, and I mean, they really did have a historic postseason, whereas, like, no, it was like the first time that they had expanded, so like them and Ohio State had to win. Like they didn't have the buys, so they like won out. Where it's like Notre Dame beat a tough Indiana team, albeit it was at home, and then they beat Georgia, and then they beat Penn State. Where it's like Notre Dame was really something last year, and it was really great to see them have a year like that. And they ended up coming short in the title, but like Ohio State was really good last year, and I know that they weren't the number one seed or anything like that, but that was a very hungry team that got embarrassed by Michigan that was really having something to prove. And you could see it throughout the playoff run. So Notre Dame kind of ran into a buzzsaw. They were kind of hoping to come into this year and to rebound with the new quarterback. I mean, CJ Carr is really good, but I mean, you're talking about his first start. He's going on the road against a team that maybe should be top three at least in the country right now, where it's like, that's a really tough place to play. And I know I think they played it at the Dolphin Stadium, but that's a road game where it's like that's a really tricky place to play. And we've been talking about it all year with these freshman QBs and going into these environments where we talked about Bryce Underwood and how he struggled on the road at Oklahoma, and Arch Manning how he went on the road at Texas. I know he wasn't a freshman, but he pretty much basically was. Where it's like it's kind of understated how under like these quarterbacks going on the road, especially these freshmen that are inexperienced to try and go into that challenge. It's really tough, Jack.
Yeah, it is. I mean, we just saw it with Bryce Underwood in Oklahoma, um, and it's just so tough just going into these environments. I mean,
Right.
Castellanos with Virginia, even that crowd. Um,
I know. Yeah.
yeah, and that's why I hope we don't have more neutral sites in the playoff, because just those environments are so huge, and
Right.
I just like those college atmospheres for playoff games, and I hope we get more of that.
Right. Exactly. And I mean, you're talking about a team that seems very good and will probably win out the rest of their schedule. I'd be surprised if they don't. But it just sucks that they might end up being left out because they had a freshman quarterback, and that was kind of an unwinnable game that they still almost won in the fourth quarter. Then we have
Right,
number
and it's
17. Yeah.
one more thing I
Right.
wanted to add. It's just
Yeah.
they kind of got screwed a little bit by their schedule because I mean,
Right, because they weren't ready for
like
those games yet.
they weren't. I mean, CJ Carr definitely still developing and getting better as he moves on. Like if maybe
Right,
you have Texas A&M earlier and then Miami later in the schedule, just so you can figure some things out. I think they definitely could have
right,
won at least one of those games. So yeah, it just sucks for them.
right. Because I mean, you look at where Texas still is at, where they'd probably be around that range. Where it's like, I mean,
Hmm.
one's tough, obviously, but I think the bye really screwed them up. They probably should have
Right.
played an inferior opponent that week to really get
Yeah.
ready for that A&M game.
Yeah.
And honestly, they really should have beaten A&M. And if you watch that Miami game, for a lot of the game, like he was struggling, but it's his first start ever, and he's on the road.
Right.
But he figured it
Yeah.
out by the end, got them back in the game, and had it tied at one point. Where it's like, this team, I do think they're good, but like you said, they definitely got screwed with the schedule. And I mean, a lot of those teams that they lost to were very underranked. Where it's like Miami was 10th when they played them. They're not, they're a lot better than that. Texas A&M, they were way lower. I think they might have even been like 18th or something. Where it's like now
Right.
those teams are kind of in like top five territory. Where it's like those losses are really good. It just
Hmm.
sucks that they won't really have an opportunity to get quality wins anymore, Jack.
Yeah. Yeah, it does suck, but that's just they didn't get all the bounces, and I just hope they still have a shot. So we'll see.
Right. Yeah, we'll have to see what teams lose around them and how much they move up. But with a team that was just in the national championship, the only way to go was up in order to improve. It's like, well, you got to win that game, but might even be unlikely if they end up making the playoff. Then we had number 17 Georgia Tech going on the road at Wake Forest, and this was a crazy upset alert game. In conference, we
Mhm.
talk about in conference on the road. Same story here, where Georgia Tech really struggled in Wake Forest and ended up barely getting it done in overtime, 30-29. Jack.
This was insane. I can't believe the Yellow Jackets pulled this one out. I mean, it started out
Right.
3-0. They were up, and then Wake Forest 20 unanswered points. It's just in dominant fashion too. And then
Right.
two quick touchdowns by Georgia Tech tied the game, and then with another field goal, and
Mm-hmm.
Wake Forest missed a field goal, so they couldn't go up by 6, so it had to go to
Right.
overtime. Um,
And
and then in overtime, Georgia Tech scored on 4 plays, and then Wake Forest scored on 1 play, but they decided to go for 2, which is an interesting call. I don't think I would have done that. I mean, I like the call just to go for the win and not go for the second overtime. But in hindsight,
right.
obviously, you're going to say just go for the extra point there. But man, they should have had this game.
Right. Yeah. I think they're also worried too as well because in that second overtime they would have had to start first, so then Georgia Tech could go back out and know exactly what they needed to do. Where they're like, this is the period where we know exactly what we need to do. We know we needed to score a touchdown. We did. Where they're like, let's win it right here. We don't want to put it to chance and then end up having Georgia Tech score more, or like we don't get the 2-pointer, whatever it is. Because I think their mindset was like Georgia Tech is the better team, and so they're thinking eventually they're gonna drown us out, which is kind of like a lot of games where it's like teams are kind of close for a little bit, but eventually the better team kind of shows. Maybe they were kind of worried about that, where like they're like, if we keep striking out this game, like it's just eventually they're gonna pull away. We got to figure it out and we got to get it right here. So I understand, but I feel like it's kind of that Ravens philosophy where it's like you go for the 2 and then you don't get it, and then the game's just over. Where it's like that's a real bummer, and especially against a team like Georgia Tech, that would have been a huge win. And I
Right.
know you're at home, but like I feel like you don't chance it. I feel like you say, let's go, let's kick this extra point, let's put our offense back out there and score, and then see what our defense could do. I just feel like you prolong it and give yourself more chances to win because if you put it all on that play, it's like I get it, it's huge if you get that, but it's like if you don't, then everything was for nothing. Where it's like at least prolong it. I understand, but at the same time, I feel like you probably just go for the one, Jack.
Yeah, I agree. And like we have the privilege of hindsight for sure.
Yeah,
Um,
right.
I don't mind that call that much. I mean, you want to win that game, but you scored with 1 play. That's such a morale booster. We saw that in the Tennessee game against Mississippi State, where they just ran out and scored on 1 play as well. Like it's just so huge. So I don't mind getting the ball back out there and just going for the 1 point.
Mhm.
And I think with the way they controlled that game, I think they could have won it for sure.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, if they get that extra point, then they go back out on offense. It's like their defense would get a lot of rest. And as you said, one play
Yeah.
touchdown, where it's like you think about the motivation that that defense would have, and then for them to come back out, where it's like, I feel I get it. I do understand it. That's the thing where it's like I get it and
Yeah.
I get wanting to end the game there. And like you said, like you don't want to end up losing later because you think like Georgia Tech's probably the better team where they're probably like, we're lucky to even be in this situation. We want the win right now. But
Right.
it's just really tricky to take that to chance. And as you said, hindsight, where it's like they'd be getting so much praise if they got it, where they're only kind of
Yeah.
getting this uh,
Hmm.
talking down because it's like, well, they didn't, right? And then it's like, well,
Yeah.
that's how you lost. It's like, well, then if they win, now it's celebrated. Where it's like that's kind of how it is. But I
Yeah.
mean, it's just really tough because I mean that was as good of a chance as you're gonna get against a solid team like Georgia Tech, where it's like I get it, I do get it, but it's like it's obviously it's hindsight because we're like, well, you didn't win, so you probably shouldn't have done that. Where it's like that, it's easy for that to say that, but they still played really well. Like they got a lot to hang their hat on, and I mean
Yeah.
Haynes King on their defense, he kind of did more so whatever he wanted. I mean, 243 and a touchdown, and then 106 yards and 2 touchdowns on the ground. Like he was spectacular. But I mean, Claiborne, like he was really solid. 2 touchdowns, 119. Like I know they lost, but like Wake Forest did really a great job, and this does suck because it was very winnable. And now
Yeah.
they got their second loss, but I mean, they really probably should have won this one, Jack.
Yeah. They could have for sure, and that's why I don't mind that Georgia Tech has kind of been hovering over that 17 and 18 spot in the AP
Right.
poll. We kind of had them before the week, like top 15, which I think they deserved. But I don't mind if you
Right.
drop them a few because this was definitely they barely squeaked a win out against a definitely an inferior opponent. So yeah,
Right. And it kind of sucks because it's like all the teams that are beating Clemson, where it's like LSU beat Clemson, so they get all that credit, but then it's like, oh, Clemson looks bad, but then they end up staying up there. And then they, of course, ended up losing to Ole Miss last week, which we'll get into. And then you had Georgia Tech. Then they beat Clemson, and it was a very tough battle where they won by a field goal. But then it's like everyone's beating Clemson, where it's like it's almost not even impressive anymore. Which maybe we jumped the gun too high on LSU and Georgia Tech. I still think they're good teams, but I mean we saw that LSU jumped all the way to 3, and then they end up losing. Where it's like maybe they weren't actually the number 3 team. It was just kind of inflated because of how good we thought Clemson was. Same thing when Georgia Tech beat them, where it's like Clemson just keeps going down, and we need to stop looking at it as like that is like, and it's still great to win that game, but it's not as a great of a quality win because they're like, well, maybe Clemson's not great anymore, and we do think Georgia Tech's pretty good, but maybe they're not top 15 at least right now, especially this game against Wake Forest where they shouldn't really have problems. But I mean, it's a road game in the ACC. It's a tricky environment. I do get that, but it's like maybe we like kind of overinflate teams when they beat a team that we think's good that may actually not be that great, Jack.
right. I agree. And it's interesting. Like you could say, like Georgia Tech really kind of that was the straw that broke the camel's back for Clemson, and that's what made them
Mhm.
lose the Syracuse game that bad.
Right. Like
That's
a
why they
domino
kind of
effect. Yeah.
right, and that's why they kind of didn't respect the Clemson win for Georgia Tech that much, as opposed to LSU. But
Right.
yeah, I mean, I don't mind them hovering around that 20 to 17 spot, especially that
Right.
close to the game. So yeah,
Right. Yeah, I think you're right. And that was a very interesting example of when a team really struggles with an inferior opponent, really struggles to put them away, and ends up being on upset alert. And that was about the opposite that we saw with Vanderbilt. Now they're ranked number 16, and they hosted Utah State. And this game was actually close for a while. It took a minute, but Vanderbilt ended up winning 55 to 35. And I think this team's pretty solid. And I mean, they have a really great win on their resume because that South Carolina win, they blew them out. And you had a team like Missouri that's ranked that beat South Carolina, but it was only by 9. And it was tough, and even though they controlled the game, it wasn't too dominant. But Vanderbilt straight up dominated South Carolina, where it's like Vanderbilt's really solid, and we'll really see how good they are next week against Alabama. That's going to be interesting. But I think they played pretty solid this week, and I mean, with a lot of teams that were really on upset alert, they did a good job in the second half, really putting that away, Jack.
yeah, they definitely did. And Utah State's not a bad team. So it was interesting to see that they kind of hung in there for the first half, but it was just I think they have one of the best offenses in the country right now, Vanderbilt. I mean, Pavia is absolutely insane. Um,
Right. Yeah.
I look at the stats. Pavia scored 6 touchdowns, 5 throwing,
Insane.
1 rushing. Absolutely insane. He would probably be him and Dante Moore are probably my Heisman favorites right now. And they beat every opponent they played by 20 or more. And they're 5-0
Right.
for the first time since 2008. So extremely impressive.
Right.
So
Yeah, and that
yeah,
the Pavia guy for Vanderbilt, him as well as that Haynes King guy for Georgia Tech, where they were the leading passer and the leading rusher. Where it's like when a QB does that, where they're dominating like both of those categories, that really shows how much of an impact they have. And I mean, in a game where they scored 24 points in the second, then 17 in the third, where it's like Utah State isn't a terrible team. Like Bryson Barnes had
yeah,
3 touchdowns. Like they played fairly decent. Like they put up 35 points against a top 25 team. That's tricky to do, but it's just like Vanderbilt's offense was so great that it didn't matter. Like Vanderbilt
yeah,
really looks good, and I think this is going to be tricky for Vanderbilt when they get into some better competition where it's like maybe they just overlooked them. Maybe we'll say that. But in terms of their defensive performance, that maybe you start to worry a little bit because it's like, well, if Utah State puts up 35, what's Alabama going to do? And then they're not going to be able to put up 55 like they did against Utah State. At least you'd think. But it's just like, I think Vanderbilt's good, and I'm thinking they just overlooked them. I think they'll play a lot better on the defensive side of the ball next week, but I think that might be a little bit cause of concern, just simply because it's like, well, like if Utah State's able to put up 35, what could Alabama do, Jack?
Right. I mean, at like the first half, it was way closer, but they really tightened up the defense in the second half, only holding them
Right.
to 7 yards in the whole third quarter. So
Mm-hmm.
I think you're right. I think they did just overlook like inferior competition.
Right.
But this is going to be an interesting game next week. I'm really excited for this one. Obviously, Vanderbilt won last year, 60-55. Very good game
Right.
at Vanderbilt. So, man, I mean, this is going to be interesting. I mean, this is going to show whether like Vanderbilt's really for real. And if they beat
Mm-hmm.
Alabama and go 6-0, I don't know how they're so low in the AP poll. I mean,
Right.
number 16. How how do they keep getting disrespected? This is a top 10 team,
Right.
100%. How they keep getting
Right.
I don't understand the disrespect for I mean, the only crime Vanderbilt did was just they are called Vanderbilt, I guess. That's all that they did to be ranked number 16. Because if you
Right.
slap any other team on that
You slap
resume,
any other logo, yeah.
yeah, that's a top 5 team for sure. So it really doesn't make any
Right.
sense. That's a little
Right.
bit
You're right.
suspect. Yeah. Um,
Right.
I
And I
definitely say
worry it's
that.
one of those
Yeah.
right. I worry it's one of those instances kind of like Indiana where it's like they beat up on South Carolina so bad where it's almost not regarded as a great win where it's just like that's even more impressive. It's like like if they handedly beat South Carolina in South Carolina's building. And it's just like
Yeah.
when you have that type of performance that the other team where they're like, yeah, it's like, you're doing pretty good, but you haven't really played anyone. It's like, but we did play someone, but it's just like you dominated so bad where it's like, that's what the same thing they said with Indiana, where
Right.
they dominated Illinois so bad. And they're like, yeah, well, you still haven't played anyone. It's like, we just beat them so bad that you don't even care anymore. Where I feel like maybe that's why they're not getting the type of respect where you think like if they played South Carolina closer, they'd almost get more respect. Where it's like really weird. I think Vanderbilt is way underranked. And I mean,
Yeah.
Vanderbilt going on the road at number 10 Alabama, like that's tough. But it's like these AP voters, it's like, oh, I'll let them earn my votes. Like against Alabama on the road, who's number 10, who just beat Georgia. Like they have to do that for them to be in your top 10. What did Penn
Right.
State do to be in your top 10?
Right.
Like let's be real here. What is Texas doing being in your top 10 now? It's like you're just making excuses at
Insane.
that point. Right.
Insane. Yeah. And last quarterback to throw for 5 touchdowns in a Vanderbilt uniform was Jay Cutler.
Really. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Jay Cut.
So
Mm-hmm.
Avia is definitely the real deal. He is something special for sure. So hopefully we see more of that magic versus the Crimson Tide.
Right, because they'll show them how to play some SEC ball next week. Then we had Auburn going on the road at number 6 Texas A&M. Now, this one was very interesting. We thought Auburn was pretty solid, and they had that loss against Oklahoma, but it was very close on the road, and they ended up taking the lead in the fourth quarter. Where we still felt fairly decent about Auburn. This was just a tough draw where Texas A&M's really good, and I mean this was a very defensive game as well. And Marcel Reed, who's normally known for a lot of his quickness outside of the pocket and just I mean his throwing and rushing ability, he's really a great player. But he had that pick where I wonder if that kind of crushed his confidence too. But he had over 200 yards passing, and they only scored 16, but they really didn't have to score much. And even 16-10 as the final score maybe is even a little misleading because Auburn got that touchdown late in the fourth quarter where it's like Texas A&M really controlled this game, and I think Texas A&M's really solid. And maybe you say they shouldn't have beat Notre Dame, but I mean, that Notre Dame game was a crazy shootout, and I mean, Reed really played great in that one. And I think the defense is starting to come into fruition now. So they did fairly decent against Auburn. Jack, what were your thoughts on that one?
Yeah, I mean, this is definitely not what the score showed for the game. I mean, Texas A&M had complete control over the game. Um, and that was just dumb
Mm-hmm.
play call late at the game for Marcel Reed to throw that pick because they just took it all the way to the 2 yard line and they just ran it
Right.
in. But Jackson Arnold really could not get anything going in this game, and A&M's
Right.
defense is definitely for real. I would say they probably had the best
Definitely.
defense of the week, them and Iowa. But yeah,
Right.
let's to look at the stats here. 52 yards rushing for Auburn. They didn't convert a single third down of the game,
That's ridiculous.
and
Yeah.
no fourth downs conversions either. So, and they
Jeez.
only had 177 yards total that A&M held them to. So, I mean,
Yeah.
this was a more defensive game, and I mean, they didn't need to score a lot to win this game for sure. They just kind of just put
Right.
points on the board and then just bled clock. But
Right. Yeah.
this it was interesting to see you picked Auburn because I don't know if I would have picked them because morale
Yeah.
definitely seemed to be lower after that loss against Oklahoma, where they kind of felt like they got cheated on a couple calls there. Um, and just to go from on the road to Oklahoma to on the road to Texas A&M, those are two tough environments. Um,
Right.
it's just a tough stretch for Auburn for sure because I still think they're a great team.
Right. And I think part of it was that, like, in this game, like I know Texas A&M had pretty decent control, but like it was still pretty winnable. It wasn't like Texas A&M was winning by 20 or like something like that. Like Auburn still had a chance, but it's like they were really struggling to get the offense clicking. And I thought Jackson Arnold was going to play a lot better. Where if you look at that game, that was kind of ended up being the separator. Where it's like you said, no third down conversions, no fourth down conversions. Like they couldn't really move the ball. And Texas A&M's offense, they really didn't have to do much to win this one, Jack.
Yeah, they didn't. They just put points on early and just kind of
Right.
just ran the ball, did what they needed to do to win, and just got an ugly one for sure. But it shows that they can definitely survive against. I think still a good team. Just uh, this is just tough for Auburn and just for that schedule, just to go from that just heartbreaking loss against Oklahoma, where you
Right.
had opportunities to win, to go on
Mhm.
the road to a very good Aggies team. So we'll see if they bounce back. But those are very two good losses as well. So yeah.
Right. I mean, it's just kind of a gauntlet for them for a minute though, because then they host number 12 Georgia, and then they host number 9 Missouri, and then they get like a little bit of a pass where they go on the road at Arkansas, and then they host Kentucky. But it's like then they have to go on the road at Vanderbilt, and then later they have to host Alabama, where it's like they still have a relatively tough schedule, and they have some gimmies there where they're playing Mercer in November. What are we doing? But very very interesting, and I think they really they need something here. They need to get back on track because that Oklahoma game was rough, but at least they felt in it. At least they felt like seemingly competent in that one. Where it's like this one, Texas A&M wasn't beating you by like a ton of points. Where it's like Auburn was just really struggling, and I didn't expect them, especially on the offensive side, to struggle this much. Where it's like a solid Baylor team, they put up 38 on them. A solid Oklahoma team last week, they put up 17. And I know they didn't put up as much like this week. That's actually pretty close, 10-17. So maybe I was expecting too much from Auburn, but I don't know. I know they wanted to get back on track, and I know this is tough to go on the road, but it's like when you look at how like they got unranked, I thought they were going to have enough motivation to be able to go in this and kind of steal it, but maybe that was wishful thinking because I was kind of more upset that Auburn got left out. Where it's like
Hmm.
that's really it's a really tough one. And I mean, winning on the road in any conference is really tricky. And I mean, the SSC especially. This is just it's a tough break for Auburn to have that back to back weeks. And
Yeah.
now they play Georgia, and now it's like it doesn't stop. And then they got to play Missouri, where it's like it's just kind of a gauntlet for them right now. So it's gonna take a minute, Jack.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, that's why it's tough to be in the SEC and Big Ten conferences because you got to play each other, and those
Right,
are always tough opponents, especially with the SEC this year. It's just talented teams everywhere, for the most part.
right,
But yeah, this is just tough for them, and I just hope they bounce back because I think that's still a talented team for sure.
right. I mean, you're talking about two teams that should probably be in the top five. Same thing with Notre Dame, who's still ranked, by the way. Where it's like that's a really tricky draw. And I mean, Texas A&M like and Oklahoma, and not the Oklahoma now. It's like that was the Oklahoma with John Mateer, where I know he had been kind of gotten injured, but he still looked great in that game and even led a touchdown drive in the fourth. That was huge for Oklahoma and winning that game. Where it's like Auburn's still really solid. I think it's just a tough draw and against two teams that probably should be in the top five. And to have that back-to-back weeks, to not have that get-back win before you get into a game like this is really tricky. And it was a very interesting in-conference game. And going on the road is obviously very tricky. And we saw that with Ohio State going on the road at Washington, where Washington had the second most wins at home in a row, where Georgia had the leading one, where they were even before COVID, which we'll get to that later. But Ohio State
Yeah.
went on the road against a Washington team that hadn't lost at home in a while. They had the second longest streak, and Ohio State, the score was pretty close for a minute, but Washington was completely neutralized by Ohio State's defense. I mean, they couldn't do hardly anything. The dual threat guy, Damon Williams Jr., where it's like he really struggled, where it's like he's really good at elusiveness and escaping, and he really couldn't do that. And the offense did plenty enough where it's like, I mean, Julian Sayin, I mean, he's great. I'm not taking away from Julian Sayin at all, but it's like when you have guys like Bo Jackson, Carnell Tate, Jeremiah Smith, like it's like they really are a star-studded group. And I
Yeah.
mean, this was a tough place to play in Husky Stadium, and I think they did pretty well, Jack.
Yeah, they definitely showed out. I mean, it's tough to win that many games in a row. I mean, I think it was like 22 games in a row. And that's
Right.
definitely a tough place to play. They have these overhangs, and the sound just bounces back onto the field when it goes up. And I heard that it like was up there. I think it might have broke the decibel record um,
Really?
for college football. I think it's one of the ones that were up there. So it is a very tough place to play. And Demond Williams going into this like Heisman candidate for sure. I thought he was one of the most elite quarterbacks, and definitely his elusiveness is up there. Um,
Right.
just to move around in the pocket's really nice too. And it was interesting that they didn't get a single vote for the AP Bowl last year. We kind of thought that was kind of disgusting. And I
Hmm.
still think they're a good team. But when you play a team like Ohio State, you kind of need
Right.
everything to go your way. And
Right.
the way
Yeah.
this game started, it kind of did. Uh,
Hmm.
Ohio State got the ball. They turned it over on downs. You got the ball there. You punched it away, but they fumbled on the punt return. You get the ball. You drive down there, and you got to score touchdowns. You can't go for three. And three red zone trips in the whole game. They only got 6 points. There was one red zone trip that
Jeez.
was just frustrating. I don't know if you saw this, but the fake field goal attempt where it just saw like no
Uh,
one was on the same page. Like,
right.
obviously, when you could see Ohio State, they had that covered already. And like, I think they were going for the run, but the guy decided to throw it when the guy, like, obviously the receiver was blocking, so he thought it was a run. But like, it was like
Right.
4th and 9. I just don't understand the
Right.
play call there. You just go for any points you can get against the Buckeyes.
Right.
So, yeah, I
Right.
mean, like, yeah, you kind of need everything to go their way, even at home when you have this large of a
Mhm.
streak. But this Buckeyes
Right.
team is just so talented. So yeah,
Right. Yeah, and I think they were
uh,
kind of trying to do what Purdue was able to do against Notre Dame last week. If you saw that fake field goal, where it's
right.
like I know that's a huge momentum shifter, and it is huge to get touchdowns, but like that's a lot of yardage to cover. And I mean, fake field goals are so risky, and especially when you're playing a team like Ohio State. Like I understand you got to get those scores, but like you got to get some points at all. Where it's like if they had gotten that field goal, then they're only down by like a score in the fourth quarter, and then maybe they play with some more heart. Maybe they end up having a better chance. That's getting into hypotheticals, but it's like the more that you end up getting like nothing, like at least get something when you get that far down. And that like once you get nothing enough times, then it's like that kind of kills the momentum and confidence of the team. Where it's like Ohio State really does look good. I think they are the favorite. So I don't think there's any shame in this. And I know Washington was at home, but it's like Ohio State is great. Ohio State is great, and a team that they have at I believe it was number 9. I don't know if they still have them there with Texas, where it's like Texas looked pretty bad against Ohio State too. Not on the defensive side of the ball, but it's like Texas didn't look great either. It's like this Ohio State team is really great. So I don't think there's not too much shame in this. Um, I mean
No, there's not.
Washington's still pretty solid. I don't think, and we'll see if they end up getting ranked later. But like this isn't a terrible loss. Ohio State is number
Yeah.
one in the country. They weren't supposed to win. Where it's like, I was hoping it would be a little closer. But honestly, I don't think they're saying because Ohio State is really good, Jack.
Yeah, I mean they are, and it was kind of over when they scored that first touchdown at the end of the first half to Jeremiah
Right,
Smith. And as soon as he caught that ball, you knew he was going straight into the end zone. Like that guy is an
right.
absolute
He's just
beast.
too
I don't
fast. Yeah.
I don't know why they don't give him the ball more. Like they kind of avoid giving him the ball sometimes, where it's like you have that big of a weapon there.
Right.
I don't, but yeah, it's just with saying he's kind of gifted the whole kit
Mhm.
and caboodle there with
Right.
all those weapons.
Caboodle.
Right. Just
Yeah.
saying.
Yeah.
Uh,
No, you're right. Mhm.
but yeah, this is just a really tough team, and even in this environment, which I think it's one of the toughest places to play, Husky Stadium. It's
Right.
just this
Yeah.
is just a game that's just so tough to win, and you kind of need everything to go your way.
Right. Yeah. I agree. And I mean, we are kind of hoping for the home team to maybe come up with an upset against a highly ranked team in their conference. And it didn't quite happen in that matchup, but it did happen when LSU went on the road at Ole Miss. Now, this game was very interesting, and Ole Miss at the time was 13th. LSU was 4. And if you look in the rankings, they kind of just flip spots where it's like Ole Miss did really well, and I know they hosted LSU, but we had talked about LSU where it's like their defense looks pretty solid, but it's like once they face a better team, that's not going to fly too well, and their offense is going to have to step up. Where if you remember, Brian Kelly ended up crashing out at a reporter because he was saying, "Hey, you guys couldn't really win." He's like, "You guys are spoiled." It's like, well, eventually that's going to come back to bite you though, where you're not going to be able to play good enough offense to win a close game against this type of caliber of team. And we really did see that. Ole Miss ended up winning 24-19. And I mean, even that looks a little closer than it was, where it's like Ole Miss really played a great game, Jack.
Yeah, they did, and like they could have put this game away way earlier. They had some costly turnovers, like they fumbled one right at the goal line to give
Right.
LSU a touchback. So they could have gone up by even more. But yeah, they completely controlled this game. I mean, Chambliss, what a
Mm-hmm.
guy. I mean, coming in for the injured Simmons. I don't know if his ankle is healing anytime soon, but man, he
Right.
really stepped into that role. I mean, it was kind of shaky when he first started there, when Simmons
Mm-hmm.
went out in the Arkansas game, because he
Right.
had some close games there. But man, I mean, that win against Tulane was insane. I mean, this one, very good win as
Right.
well. But yeah, he had a very good game. And the thing about Ole Miss is they're 3-0 versus SEC teams. They have a whole leg up on this conference.
Oh,
That's
wow.
a very
Yeah.
good start for them. Yeah. So maybe they're the favorite to win the SEC. I'd probably still give that one to Georgia, even though they just lost. But I mean, how could you not? But I mean, they outgained them every facet of the game
Right.
versus Tigers. So yeah,
Right.
Ole Miss. I don't hate that number 4 ranking. I mean, they have some close wins there, but this is still a very good team. And I wanted to ask you.
Right.
I mean, Lane Kiffin was really talking trash before this game
Right.
because his daughter's dating the linebacker Weeks for LSU. He
Right.
said take the
And which,
over,
mhm. Right. Which they didn't end
and
up hitting. Yeah.
they didn't hit it. Yeah,
I know.
but they did win the game, but they didn't get the over. So, yeah, I mean, he was really going crazy on his Twitter account. And then I wanted to ask you, this was interesting to me,
Mhm.
is Ole Miss fans didn't storm the field, and Lane Kiffin said that like he was happy they didn't. Like they kind of expected them to win this game, even though like LSU was. I mean, they were favored in this game, but
Right.
LSU was the higher ranked opponent, and they looked better going into it, I think. So, what did you think about
Right.
that?
Well, I think at a certain point the line ended up giving Ole Miss the edge. So it was a very interesting line coming into this game where it's like I picked Ole Miss. I felt pretty good about them, and especially after they just trashed on Tulane. Where before that we were kind of like, well, they didn't do great against Kentucky. Well, they didn't do great against Arkansas. But then it's like with how commandingly they blew out Tulane, that gave me a lot of confidence going into this one with an LSU team that was really struggling to run the ball and really figure out that offense. Where it's like I get not wanting to storm the field because that's basically saying like, hey, we're like one of the top teams. Like we don't need to do that when we beat one of those teams. It's like more so expected, or it's like I know it's technically an upset in terms of ranking, but I mean in their team they're probably thinking it's like, well, I mean yeah, technically they're ranked above us, but like especially with those SEC teams where they feel like they're really close in the rankings, like they'd have to be unranked for them to want to do that. Like I think that just
Right.
shows the confidence in the team because I mean they're not like it's not like a Virginia situation or when Florida State rushed the field where they're saying like, "Hey, we're one of the top teams. Like we're not one of those teams." Like I know Florida State's really good. Like no disrespect to them, but I mean it's a game that I think they expected to win. I think that's the difference probably. And I mean, I mean it really is just saying, "Hey, we're a really good team and we're supposed to win games like this." And whether like they'll continue to do that, I don't know. But I do get it. It is cool when like and as a fan, like rushing the field is going to be one of your best memories. But
Right.
um, I do understand not doing. I think I do understand that, Jack.
Yeah, I think this is like a statement win, but it's interesting because LSU has had Ole Miss's number in the past,
Right.
100%. So it was interesting, but going into this one, I picked LSU just because I wasn't really sure about Ole Miss's rush defense.
Hmm.
Obviously, Florida, their rush defense is great. They really held them in that
Right.
game, and they only lost by 10, even with Lagway's 5 picks. But they
Right. He
really
doesn't
couldn't
throw
get
a couple
anything
of those
going.
picks. He doesn't throw a couple of those picks. Maybe LSU already lost before this game. They
Right,
were really
100%,
suspect.
and
Yeah.
the pick six, yeah.
Jeez. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, Florida's defense really shined, and that was kind of a question going into it, is if Ole Miss's defense was going to limit them on the ground game, and they really did. Only 59 yards on the ground for LSU, so they really showed out for sure. So that was impressive to me, and
Hmm.
it really showed that they're definitely a contender.
Right. Yeah. And they're 100% top 10. It's just about where they go. Where it's
Right,
like, I mean, I know LSU was kind of suspect, and they were kind of looming. Where it's just like, well, that Clemson win doesn't look as great now, but they were already ranked pretty highly before that, and also they had to go on the road against Clemson to get that one, so that's still pretty solid. And then that Florida one on the road as well is tricky, and I know Florida had already lost, but that's a tricky team to play and on the road. And I mean, they kind of got blessed with those interceptions, and I know that's a testament to their defense with like how good they were in getting those interceptions. Like, obviously that's very true, but it's like 5 interceptions, like that's unheard of. Where it's like in a game that you only won by 10, where it's like you could kind of see this coming. And I did pick Ole Miss, and even the lines had Ole Miss, like that it kind
right,
of changed going into this one. So even though it's like an upset, it wasn't unpredictable. Where it's like LSU had kind of gotten that high ranking when we thought Clemson was really good, and then they didn't really adjust after Clemson was kind of like exposed, where it's like if you looked at this, you're like, well, they were only at number 4 because of that Clemson win, and you can see like they played Clemson close, and then you see where Clemson is, so you can kind of be like, well, this doesn't feel like a 4 versus 13. It felt a lot tighter and closer than that, so it was a lot easier to pick this one. And then at the end of the day, you give Ole Miss home field advantage. That kind of tells the story of why they ended up being favored and really why they won at the end of the day, Jack.
right, for sure. And in the first week, we kind of thought they were like a complete team. I mean, their defense certainly is still there. We definitely saw
Right.
that, but they still have a lot of questions on offense. I still think Nussmeier is a great quarterback, but they still have some things to work out for sure, uh, just to get things going on the offensive side of the field. So it'll be interesting to see. I mean, that's still a great program. Brian Kelly's obviously still a good coach, and I
Right.
expect them to do great. But Ole Miss showed that they are one of those teams.
Hmm. Right. Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah,
And I mean, LSU, it's just kind of, it really does suck because it felt like they wasted Jaden Daniels for those years
yeah,
that they had him after he transferred over from Arizona State, where it's like, it really felt like they wasted him because of how poor that defense was playing and how they ended up losing games that Jaden Daniels played more than well enough to win. And then it's like now he leaves, and then now in Garrett Nussmeier, like it's this, he's already been in the system. And it's like it was really supposed to come together, especially after the defense started playing great. And then it's like, oh, well, now the offense is struggling and the defense isn't, where it's like, it's a really tough. And it feels like
right.
it's almost like an Iowa situation where
Yeah,
the offense is is really struggling to do much, and then you're relying on the defense to basically win the game for you, which they were able to do against Florida with the 5 picks, and just
Mhm.
really couldn't. I mean, Ole Miss was too disciplined to make those mistakes, I think, Jake.
Yeah, for sure. And another thing about Jaden Daniels, I mean, a lot of people were saying when that Heisman campaign was going on, oh, he's just stat padding. Oh, he's just stat padding. He's like single-handedly keeping LSU in these games because the
Right,
defense can just not hold anyone to anything. Uh,
right,
so, I mean, that season with Jaden Daniels was insane, and it's interesting that as soon as he leaves, they get like really good defense. So that kind of sucks. But
right.
yeah, because I think they could have gone all the way, like in 2019. So yeah,
Right. I mean, this defense is really stellar where it's like if they had an offense to complement it, yeah, you could definitely say that because it's like, well, they held Florida to 10, and I know it's a little more, but like they held Ole Miss to 24. It's like if their offense is able to play a lot better, they could easily win those games. And
I
especially with a guy like Jaden Daniels, I think Jaden Daniels wins this game. And maybe we don't say like because the running was really struggling, but I feel like it kind of sucks for Jaden Daniels that he's kind of out as LSU figures out the problem that held him back from achieving more in college outside of just personal awards. Jack.
yeah, for sure. I mean, like when you have a guy like Jane Daniels or Burrow or Mateer,
Right.
he's just like Superman at quarterback. They can kind of do anything, and the offense is just on them. Nussmeier's not really at that caliber. We'll see if he kind of gets there throughout the season,
Right. Mhm.
but that's definitely some things they need to work on that offense for sure.
Right. Yeah, I think you're right. And then, I mean, there's so many great SEC matchups because then we had
Yeah.
Mississippi State hosting number 15 Tennessee. And honestly, they should have been a ranked matchup, for being honest. It ended up going to
Yeah.
overtime where it's like, we talked about Mississippi State earlier when we were talking about Arizona State, where they beat Arizona, who was ranked, or Arizona State, yeah. They beat Arizona State when they were ranked 11th. That's still pretty impressive. And then this one, not only did they get Tennessee at home, that Tennessee's defense had already kind of looked suspect against Georgia. Mississippi State was good enough to capitalize against that, but it wasn't enough to get the win, Jack. They just lose 34-41 in overtime.
Yeah, I mean, it looked like Mississippi State had this one. I mean, this was
Right.
definitely a sloppy game by either team. Tennessee had 3 turnovers. Mississippi State had 2. There was one in the first quarter where it was kind of
Right.
unlucky because you were so close to the goal line, but Shapen throws a pick six, and that's what kind of started the
Right.
game. But on the other side, Aguilar threw 2 picks and a fumble, and Mississippi State capitalized on all 3. So I still think
Right.
Mississippi State is a great game, and their crowd was insane. And I really thought this was going to be the one where they're going to storm the field, and I almost did because they were up by a touchdown with 8 minutes left to go after a pick where they just scored.
Right.
But then Aguilar 6 minute drive,
Right.
score touchdown to tie, and then it goes to overtime. And then, like we said, first play of overtime, they score, and then Mississippi State can't
Mhm.
return in overtime. But I still think they're a solid team, and Tennessee really proved that they can still win these big games like they couldn't
Right.
do against Georgia.
Right.
But yeah. Oh, a thing about the Mississippi State is this is the 13th straight SEC loss. They haven't won against an SEC opponent in since 2023.
Jeez.
So yeah, I mean, the thing was last
Um,
year they had 8 losses against SEC opponents, but they were all like not good at all.
mhm.
They were all blowouts. But this is really, even though this is a loss and this is a win they could have came out with. That's what Shapen said after the game.
Mhm.
Um, this is definitely like I would still keep your spirits up because they can definitely hang with teams like Tennessee. And I think they will
Right.
get an SEC win this year for
Well,
sure.
you would think, yeah.
Yeah. Hopefully that streak doesn't continue.
Right. Especially to with teams like Florida and Arkansas on their schedule. You'd think they'd be able to, but it's tough because now immediately after this was like their best chance where they had number 15 Tennessee at home. And as you said with the pick six, where you think maybe if they don't do that, but they got several breaks from Aguilar that they capitalized on.
They did.
Maybe you say that kind of cancels out because now they have to go on the road at number 6 Texas A&M, a Texas A&M team that really controlled the game against Auburn, where it's like it really showed off their home field advantage. So I mean, now Mississippi State going on the road against Texas A&M. Like I do like Mississippi State, but I mean this is just a tough schedule. And once again, it's kind of like Auburn, where it's like they play Oklahoma and then they have to go on the road against Texas A&M. So it's a very tricky schedule, Jack.
Yeah, it definitely is. And this is just kind of a heartbreaking win. I mean, this is just tough,
Mm-hmm.
and they're probably going to lose against Texas A&M next week. But
Right.
still, I wouldn't vote them out anytime soon. I know the AP poll, they didn't even rank them
Well, not even
when
to
they were
begin with. Right.
4-0, not even to begin with, even though they beat Arizona State, who is now ranked. So that's interesting. But
Right.
this is still a great team, and they absolutely could have pulled this one out. So it sucks because
Mhm.
this is not a team that usually wins these games. I mean, they're not as
Right.
storied as Tennessee, obviously, but yeah, still rooting
Right.
for them for sure.
Right. And as you said, even though like it wasn't a blowout, it kind of shows that Mississippi State is still on the come up and they're starting to compete more and more in the SEC, where it's like obviously like when you start talking about championship stuff, that's probably too ahead, especially for this year. But it's like the fact that they're more competitive in the conference because they were kind of like
Mhm.
Vanderbilt. Them and Vanderbilt for the longest time were like the weakest links, where it's like if you see them in your schedule, oh, there's an easy win. Oh,
Yeah.
that'll be good. A nice little bye week where it's like now Mississippi State and Vanderbilt are doing a lot better. So it's nice to see those kind of teams end up becoming more competitive and just get better within the conference. Because I mean, the SEC is so congested where it's like there's so many great teams, and it's really tough once you get to those. Once you get swept under the bottom of a lot of those middle teams, it's really hard to break out. And I mean, I was surprised where like it kind of felt like at a certain point it's like, man, maybe they should like leave the conference because it's just kind of sad where it's like if they
Right.
can't compete year after year, they'd almost rather just get out just to have some success. Where it's like now I feel like they're doing a lot better. And the fact that, as you said, they were competitive this time. Like they barely lost to
Yeah.
Tennessee in overtime,
Yeah.
probably should have won. I mean, they beat Arizona State, who was ranked 11th, and now that keeps aging better and better with how Arizona State's doing with that upset against TCU, where it's like
Mhm.
Mississippi State's really solid, and they did lose this one, and that does suck. And obviously, their schedule ahead is really tough, but it's nice to see them kind of get out of the rut now of the bottom of the SEC, Jack.
Yeah, this is definitely a team to root for. And it's
Mhm.
good to see that they still have a fan base that's willing to support them. And I think as we go on, they'll get better and better. I mean, they look great still, getting those 3 turnovers. They did give up 450 yards, but that's
Ooh.
against a high-powered Tennessee offense.
Right,
So, I mean, what can you do? But
right.
yeah, it's
Yeah, we
it's
saw
it's a
them
tough
do
one.
that. Right, we saw them do that against Georgia as well. So
Yeah,
that's just kind of yeah.
yeah,
That's
that's
just
true.
that's just a tricky draw. And we were thinking, I ended up picking Mississippi State. I was thinking they would have the edge, and especially at home. And I thought they were a
Yeah,
lot underrated. Where it's like, I feel like the rankings kind of deceive you because they make you think that this gap was a lot wider than it was. Because this was a matchup between top 20 teams. I know the AP didn't say that, but like that is what it was.
yeah,
And like Mississippi State really should have been. And the fact they were never ranked at a point at all is what was really surprising. Where it's like, man, kind of sucks to see them lose. Nothing against Tennessee, but it's like we're just waiting. Where it's like, oh, well, maybe after this win they'll get respect. Oh, maybe they'll finally get respect now. And it's just kind of unfortunate to lose that game, Jack.
yeah, definitely. I mean, they absolutely would have been ranked. Probably still
Mhm.
lower because they just don't
Right,
give them. I mean, they should be ranked now because Tennessee, that's a great loss. Um,
right,
and they would have kept Georgia in the mix there, even if they lost that game. So it sucks,
right.
but this is a team. I think they have enough adversity to kind of stick in there and kind of go into this tough road ahead. So yeah,
Right. Yeah. And we'll see how Tennessee does going forward, but Mississippi State going to be very difficult for them. And I mean, we'll see how they do going forward, but I mean, they've got a tough schedule. And I mean, it's an SC schedule no less, but like going on the road against Texas A&M, that's going to be very tricky. So we'll have to keep up with them. And it was very huge for Tennessee to win that game because they had already dropped that close one to Georgia. Then we had Arizona going on the road at number 14, Iowa State. And this was a really big prove-it game for Iowa State. Well, I know Arizona hadn't been like spectacular and they weren't getting like rank buzz or anything like that, but they were doing fairly solid. And we just saw Iowa State look very suspect against Arkansas State. Like that was very surprising. They were not supposed to be struggling in that game, and
Yeah.
they really did. Where like it was tied, they only won the game by 8. Where it was kind of like, and when I was doing my top 25, I didn't really know where to put them because it's like, well, they have a decent resume, and I think they're pretty good, but it's like that performance was so concerning, and I think they knew that because the way they came out, they really wanted to prove the doubters wrong, and they really wanted to say, hey, we're still here, hey, we're still pretty good, and they decimated Arizona. I mean, 39-14, it's a statement, Jack.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And you kind of went with your predictions. You kind of said like this is potential close game. I mean, Arizona's not a bad team, um, especially with that performance against the Red Wolves because they had a bye last week,
Right.
so 2 weeks ago. But yeah, this is a huge win for Iowa State. They're still getting pretty disrespected. I mean,
Mhm.
14 is a pretty low. I mean, this is a great win, and they are 5-0 now. So
Mhm.
yeah, this
Right.
is still a great team. I mean, Rocco Becht is still that guy, it seems.
Right.
And yeah, they definitely proved that they can still be consistent for sure. And that Kansas State win looks better. That they just beat UCF pretty handily.
Right.
So yeah,
Yeah, Kansas State really needed to get back on track. I mean,
yeah,
the way they fell off was wild. But yeah, that
hmm
that definitely hurt Iowa State's sort of presence in the rankings, where it's like, well, that win's not that great anymore. Where Kansas State was ranked ahead of Iowa State when they played. So like that was thought of as
yeah,
like, oh, that's a really great win. But then Iowa State ended up getting so like maybe you say disrespect or maybe you say it's justified. It's kind of justified. Where then now Texas Tech is like the new favorite, pretty much. Where like they ended up jumping Iowa State. Where it's like I don't know. Iowa State was in the championship game last year, just didn't win. Arizona State, they played this tough game, and we saw how Arizona State played against Texas. You can see why they lost that one. So they came back this year very motivated, and they beat Kansas State in Ireland, no less. I mean, international games are more tricky to win than you would think, and they were able to get it done. And I know it's hard to say like with the slip ups where it's like, oh, they haven't looked like themselves. Like well, at least they haven't played themselves too much out of it yet because they haven't had a loss yet. And so that's pretty huge. And I could definitely see Iowa State doing big things in the Big 12. And I feel like this gave me a lot more confidence. And they really did need a win like this because I don't know what happened. I don't know if they were sleepwalking against Arkansas State. I don't see why it would be that close. Um, Honestly, I think Iowa State just need to figure things out. And I'm thinking it's just another situation where they overlooked them, Jack.
yeah. I think so. And just they to that point they played more weeks than anyone else because they played in week
Mm-hmm.
0.
Right.
So I think it was just that, just overlooking a pretty lackluster Arkansas State team. So yeah,
Right.
this win means a lot, and they can show that they're really back on track. So yeah,
Right. Yeah. And that was a huge win for them in front of their home crowd and against an Arizona team that had played pretty solid. Very huge to get momentum back on their side and bring confidence back to the team with a dominant win. Then we had number 2 Oregon going on the road against number 7 Penn State. And this one was very interesting. It was Penn State's whiteout. Huge home field advantage in this one and huge implications because the winner is going to be right up there at the contender spot with Iowa State, where it's like for years, it was kind of like Ohio State and Michigan played at the end of the year, where it's like, well, the winner of that one's going to go to the championship. It's like the winner of that is going to be the real separator. So it's like these head to head games are so huge in the Big Ten. And Oregon going on the road and winning in the whiteout was really impressive. And I know Penn State doesn't win too much in these top 10 games anymore, but I mean, Oregon really played well, and especially Dante Moore in overtime. Like that last play where he dodged out a guy, like he snuck out of the pocket, and then just like falling away, he throws it to a guy, and then the guy's able to make enough moves, and they score a touchdown in one play. Like Oregon played really great, and it really just shows how great of a week this was. When this was a 3-3 game late in the third, turns into a 30-24 overtime thriller with Oregon winning. This really was just a great game and really capped off a great week, Jack.
yeah. I mean this was kind of a defensive game. Um, kind
Mm-hmm.
of. you could say boring game. I mean, it started out with Oregon missing a field goal, and then Penn State
Right.
made a field goal, and then Oregon made a field goal. It was just 3-3 for most of the game. But
Right.
then Oregon really turned it up, like two straight touchdowns. It
Hmm.
was 17-3 for a lot of it, and in the fourth quarter, Penn State just kind of turned it up. Where these are the kind of throws that just scream like top five pick. For that one throw that Aller made was just insane. Um, it's
Right.
interesting because like he has so much talent around him, but they really just could not get anything going
I
against
know.
Oregon for like most of all of the game. And this score is not what the game was. Like
Right.
if you didn't watch the game, you were like, "Oh, 30-24. That's pretty close." But like no, it was not. I mean, Oregon completely dominated it. And Penn State had two late touchdowns, and it really seemed like they were finally going to get that top 10 win, Ben.
Right.
They made those two touchdowns. They were the first to go in overtime. They scored first in overtime very quickly, but they
Right.
just could not get it done. It's just, is it ever going to happen? Can they ever get a top 10 win?
I don't know. And I mean, Oregon. I mean, they held in the fourth down in that first overtime, but then Oregon was able to get
Yeah.
it. Where like it really is just tricky. I mean, Oregon looked really great, and the as far as in regulation, it was very stingy on the defenses played really well in regulation, so it was really tough go for both these teams. But they ended up kind of both scoring touchdowns in the second half, where they kind of started to break through. And I mean, if you were watching this game when it's like towards the end of the third, where it's like 3-3, you wouldn't think that they would score 30 and 24 points like that. That's what's
Yeah.
like so crazy. Where it's like it kind of came out of nowhere, where it felt like it was a dud for most of the game. Very defensive battle, and Oregon, it's really weird because Oregon was supposed to be in a rebuilding year. They lost,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
They lost Dylan Gabriel. They lost some key players, Tez Johnson, and Penn State had a lot of returning talent. They were, and the AP poll, they love returning talent, and so they were
So,
supposed to be like really, it was really supposed to be a breakthrough year for Oregon, for Penn State, I mean. And it's like Penn, like to not beat a team, and I know Oregon's really great, but it's like they weren't supposed to win big like games this year. This is the rebuilding year. They're trying to get back on track. They're trying to put this game back together versus a team that had a lot of returning talent that was already assembled. Where it's like Penn State, it's like when is it going to happen? If not now, like when? Like in the whiteout
yeah.
against an Oregon team that was trying to
Mhm.
rebuild and that had kind of struggled against Northwestern, especially in terms of their run defense, where it's like, when is it going to happen? And it's like if they're not even going to be in the top two, because now Oregon has kind of separated themselves. If they don't beat Ohio State, like they might already not have a chance at the Big Ten title. Where it's like, when are they going to break through? Because it feels like they're always in that category of top 10 teams, and they're never able to get it done against one. Where it's like, well, how do you even say that they're that high in the top 10 when they consistently don't win those games? Where it's like, it's really tricky, and it's like, once again, if not now, when? And it feels like we just keep waiting, and it just doesn't happen, Jack. Something's got to change. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. I don't know. It's just James Franklin is just not clicking because now he's 4-21 versus top 10 opponents. And the last top 10
Right,
opponent that he beat was in 2016 against Ohio State when they blocked a field goal to win it there. Um,
right,
and they're kind of just holding on to that, I guess. So that's almost a decade ago. So,
right,
I mean, it's been so long, and they haven't lost a whiteout since 2018. That against Ohio State too, because I
right.
mean, they haven't been scheduling like good teams for the whiteout usually. I mean,
Right.
last year was Washington and SMU. Um,
I
so
mean, a few years
I was
ago, right?
yeah,
A few years ago, they beat up on Iowa that didn't have an offense. So it's like,
right, the
you know,
31-0, yeah.
right.
So
I
I
feel like
respect them.
the whiteout numbers that they said were in a row, they were kind of inflated as well. Where it's like, but you're not playing Ohio State in the whiteout. Last time you did, you lost. Where it's like, all right, you know.
Right, right. That's why I kind of respected them for scheduling this Oregon game for a whiteout. Um, but man, I mean, and like you said, like they almost had it in overtime where they scored first.
Right,
Oregon, they muffed a snap and then got held to fourth down, and then Dante Moore had that great play that you mentioned. But I mean,
right.
man, is it just ever going to happen that they just cannot win big games? is their Achilles heel, it seems.
Right? Yeah, I mean definitely. And I mean James Franklin, it's really tough. Where it felt like last year in that playoff run, it felt like they were finally going to prove the doubters wrong. And when they beat SMU and then they beat Boise State, where it's like I know those weren't huge, but it's like at least they were winning against teams that and they weren't they were kind of inflated in the ranking to begin with, and Penn State really just had an easy go in that ranking. But then they played Notre Dame, and I mean they really should have won. Like Drew Aller threw a terrible interception to throw the game away towards the end, where it's like even in games where it's like they
Yeah,
had it, and they just give it away. Where it's like when is it going to happen? And that's why, like, when I was previewing this game, I'm like, I can't confidently pick Penn State because they
yeah.
don't win these games, and it's hard to even put them high in the top 10 because it's like they don't beat top 10 teams historically. They don't, so it's really tricky.
I just,
And it's like they beat the
yeah,
teams that they should, and then against the teams that it's like this one was more egregious because they were ranked above Oregon. I didn't have them ranked above Oregon, but I know the AP did. And I mean, even now, like they only fell to 7, where it's like it's really tricky. I had them at 10th before they even lost. So I mean, it's just really tricky. And I don't know what's going on with Keegan Michael Key's doppelganger, James Franklin, the head coach. Something's really messed up, and I think they are a good team because like you can see
yeah.
how they played. They played great in this game. And the way they were able to rally in the fourth and like a lot of overtime, like they were pretty solid. And that interception was just really unfortunate. But like this team was good. They played well. They just don't know how to close these games out, Jack.
They just don't. I mean, I don't know what needs to change,
Right.
but man, I mean, like everything was set in stone. I mean, like you said, like Oregon was rebuilding, but they just continually replace that talent. They're one
Right.
of the best in the country to do it. I mean, they're definitely one of those teams that has like one of the best like quarterback
Right.
runs for sure with Mariota, Herbert, Bo Nix, Dylan
Right.
Gabriel,
Jeez.
and
Yeah.
now Dante Moore. I mean, it's a very good list. I mean, Dylan Gabriel is going to start here for the Browns, probably. I mean, we'll see, but yeah,
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
Dante Moore, I think, is absolutely in that Heisman candidate, and this is why I love grass fields.
Right.
This is just the mud was just everywhere, and it was just so cool to see. It
Right.
was all over Moore's jersey. It was awesome. Just so much better than turf.
Right. Jeez, his jersey looks so cool. And
Yeah,
I
it
don't
was
know if you saw
awesome.
this, but it was kind of confusing because if you saw this about the Giants this past week, where it's like Cam Scadaboo's jersey, like he had like mud on the numbers, but it's like but they play on turf, so it's like what happened?
Right,
But
right. I
yeah,
saw that. Yeah, that was weird.
yeah. I mean, grass fields
Yeah,
are 100% superior, and I mean, you saw what just
yeah.
happened to Najee Harris, where he got gripped by the turf monster, and now
Right.
he's out for the year. Where it's like it's really unfortunate, and like it's just really weird. And I really love grass fields, and we see that a lot more at the college level. It's why it's so great. And I mean, there's a lot of things about college football that's superior, notably the overtime rule, where we
Mhm.
saw several overtime games, including this one. And I just love the process of like each team, like it's really fair, and it can end in a tie. Ties are why? Why do they exist at this
Yeah.
level? And it's like each team, it's like you get the ball and then you get the ball. You score the same, okay, you go again. And then if not, you go 2 points, 2 point, 2 point, where it's like people argue, they're like, well, we don't want to play all night. Like it's going to be going too crazy. It's like, well, they fixed that though. Because then going for two and then the 2 point back and forth, all it ever does is enhance the game and makes it more exciting. It never makes it feel like it's dragging. Like, I don't know who are these people that hate free football that say, no, we shouldn't add extra overtime. It's like, that's what's fun about it. It's like really weird. And the fact that the Packers and the Cowboys were allowed to tie in that game, I mean, it really just shows how superior college football is, especially, I mean, when it comes to the overtime rule. And look at how many
Mhm.
games were enhanced by the overtime. Like, the overtime makes the games better. It kind of kills the games in the NFL. It's like Oregon Penn State in regulation, that was 17-17. And it was 3-3
Yeah.
in the second half. Like all it did was enhance, and then it makes that game so much more memorable and so much cooler too. Where it's like both teams got a chance to like run up the score more. Where it's like I know like defensive games, I know that was kind of the theme of this, but like it's cool to see like towards the end, especially when the defenses get tired, when the offenses can rip a little more and score a lot more, and it's like it's really fun. And that's why I don't get the criticisms against it because I mean the college football overtime, it feels like it's perfected, And it really just enhances the game and just makes it more enjoyable and more memorable, Jack.
Yeah, I would agree. It's definitely like the superior way to NFL. I mean, I don't know how the tying hasn't been outlawed a while ago. It's interesting that we even still have it because it's just so outdated. I mean,
Right,
with how important these regular season games are, it just
right,
makes no sense for ties to happen. Because whenever ties happen like this, and you look at playoff pictures, it's so weird
right,
seeing what teams go in front of others that are tied, and it kind of for the Packers, it kind of messes it up because with it kind of is like they're not really a leg up on the Lions in that division.
right,
Because I mean that's a game that they didn't lose, but it kind of feels like a loss in the fact that they just can't really win that division like they normally would. But yeah,
right.
another thing I wanted to mention about the turf fields, we
Mhm.
just saw Malik Neighbors go down with an ACL injury. He's out for the year. And Odell Beckham
Right,
Jr. He played for the Giants, and he mentioned how bad the conditions were at MetLife
right,
Stadium. So I mean, yeah, I mean turf monster is just it's just awful. I mean, especially with the worst turfs. Like, I mean, we saw Odell
right,
go down in the Super Bowl at the Rams Stadium. Um,
right.
but yeah, it just
Yeah.
sucks.
Yeah, and I forget, I think it might have been Darius Slayton. It was one of the Giants wide receivers a few years ago where he was just walking on the field and then just collapsed. Where it's like we cannot be like the turf fields. I'll have to figure out who that was, but like it's just so unfortunate with the turf fields because it's so dumb, and they really do need to fix that. And they need to play on grass like a lot of these college teams do, and especially Penn State. I mean, that's great, and grass is far more superior. And also, I mean, it does enhance like it looks really cool when the mud gets on the jersey like that. Dante Moore's jersey with the mud on it and the way that went with the green, like he looked so sick
Yeah,
in that game. Like
yeah,
honestly,
he did.
like right. And I know maybe
That
they
was
don't want
awesome.
mud and the mud that can get tricky, but it's like that's it's just it makes the game better and I would think lowers injuries. And I feel like the NFL they try to say like, oh yeah, they care about lower injuries, but then they continue to add more games to the season. They continue to add more international games where it's like, no, you don't really. Like I don't know, it's kind of weird.
Yeah, and another thing with grass fields is it's really hard to maintain.
Right.
Especially with teams that play in a dome. Mm,
Right.
Like I know the Cardinals, they kind of wheel their field out and let it get sun. For that, I
Right.
hope more teams start doing that because I think that's a good tradition to keep going.
Right.
But yeah, it's all a part of like just it costs so much to maintain it. I mean, you see with the Vikings field, that's pretty much they're playing on concrete there, and it just
Right.
sucks. Yeah,
Right. I mean, with how long they let the Raiders play in Oakland on that horrible stadium, just the baseball stadium. How did they let that go on for so long? Like I've heard so many stories of guys' arms just getting
yeah,
torn up because they're just playing on concrete, Jack.
yeah. That was insane. I mean, that needed to go for sure.
Right.
That was very interesting that that kept going on. Um, yeah, but luckily not. But the new Raider Stadium is turf, of course. But yeah,
Right. At least it's not a baseball stadium. It's an
right.
improvement. But
Yeah,
yeah. That was very interesting, and a lot of the overtime games and just a lot of the atmospheres with the grass and like the fans rushing the field, just everything. There's a lot of stuff that goes into college football that really does make it great, including the Alabama-Georgia rivalry. Now, this game was huge, and Alabama, of course, is now ranked 10th. I think they deserve that. I think they definitely proved themselves, and maybe you don't say they have them at 10, maybe you have them a few down, but regardless, this was an incredible win against the Georgia team that was top 5 in the country, and Georgia was like, I mean, they've won the SEC a lot over the past few years, so they were the favorites, understandably. But and also that's what happened again is that they were at home. Georgia wins at home. That's what they do. They like even before COVID, they hadn't lost. And Alabama, we were talking about it all week. It's like, well, they went on the road at Vanderbilt and lost to an unranked Vanderbilt. Then they went on the road against a 5-6 Oklahoma team. It's like, and then they play their worst game ever, where it's like, and then they go on the road at Florida State this year, and it really doesn't go well. So it was hard to build much confidence. But Alabama really proved everyone wrong this week. 24-21 against the Georgia team that maybe wasn't as good as past Georgia teams, definitely not. And they probably should have lost to Tennessee as well. But like this was very impressive for Alabama to go on the road like this, Jack.
Yeah, I mean, this is a huge win for them, and it bodes a lot of confidence. Alabama just continues to have Kirby Smart's number. Kirby Smart is now 1-7 against
Right.
them.
Mm-hmm.
They only beat him in the 2022 college football playoff national championship.
Right.
But man, I mean, two streaks went down. We talked about the Washington streak, but 33 games is insane. I mean, their last loss was in 2019 versus South Carolina.
Right. And then
So,
Penn State's whiteout streak as well. So yeah.
right, right. We talked about that in 2018 when they lost to Ohio State. That was the last time. But now that streak got broken as well.
Mm-hmm.
But Alabama looked really good in this game. They had an extremely hot start with two quick
Right.
touchdowns, and they really just controlled this game for sure.
Right. Yeah, I mean Alabama really played well, and Ty Simpson's looking better and better every week. And of course, the big story is Ryan Williams, and he's not 17 anymore, uh, unfortunately. But Alabama is pretty solid, and I mean, I know they only won the game by 3 at the box score, but like this game felt like they controlled it a lot more, and Georgia ended up having to play from behind a lot. And I mean, Georgia just played such an uninspiring fourth quarter, or maybe you just say Alabama just played such a great one. It's like Georgia had a lot of chances to tie this game or do anything, and they really just didn't execute on any of those opportunities, Jack.
Yeah, they really didn't. I mean, they had many opportunities to tie a game. There was a missed field goal in the fourth quarter,
Right?
but yeah, they just could not get much stuff going. And Alabama
Mhm.
looked like definitely the superior team. And
Right?
at home field advantage didn't really make a difference that much, which is surprising because they've won so many in a row.
Right?
But there was an interesting play late at the game that actually won Bama the game. Was number one for Georgia jumped on top of a pile while the play was over for a while. So that was an interesting play. What did you think about that?
Right. Yeah, it made no sense. And I've seen a lot
Yeah.
of edits where it's like you just see him flying in out off screen. And then like I don't know what compelled him to do that. It didn't really make sense. I'm not real sure what he was thinking. Because the videos and all like the memes, like it's really funny, but at the end of the day, you're like, what was he thinking? I honestly don't know. It was pretty funny, but it's like not only that like not the time or the place, but it's like you're in a really tight game with a conference rival. You cannot give up yards like that. You cannot give up first downs like that. So
Yeah.
I don't get it. Definitely could have gone without that. And I mean they were doing good outside of that. And I know they were still losing, and I know they had to come from behind. And like their second half, like I mean that fourth quarter, both teams were scoreless. Like they really had a chance to at least get a field goal. And just any possession like that, any penalties are so huge, especially on third downs or fourth downs. To extend drives or to stop yourself from getting first downs, whatever the case may be. But just giving the other team that advantage by committing a penalty that's so random. Where it's like if you think like if they commit pass interference because they got beat, it's like, yeah, well, they were stopping the touchdown. Where you think about that in basketball a lot. It's like, well, yeah, if you're gonna foul because that they had already beat you, so you're just trying to stop them and make them earn it at the field goal, make them earn it at the free throw line. Where it kind of feels like that, but it's like when you do something like that, it's just so unnecessary and so
Yeah.
irresponsible. And I mean, just think about everything that your team had done all game and all year to get to this point, and then you just do that. So yeah, it was very confusing. I don't know why he did that, and that was a very stupid play, Jack.
Yeah, it definitely was. And there were a lot of questions about Alabama. I know after that first week reaction, we were saying maybe Kalen DeBoer is not the right choice for this head coaching position for that embarrassing performance against the Seminoles. But man, they have stormed back. They look like a complete team now, not like they did in week one.
Right,
But yeah, they really responded to all the criticism,
right,
and
yep,
they really look good. Yeah, I know you had them at number 23 prior to this week's games, which makes sense. They didn't really do anything to earn it, but they really I think, earned that top 15 spot for sure this week.
Definitely, yeah. And I mean, that game against Florida State was just so uninspiring, where it's hard to really put them too high until they did something like this. And Alabama definitely deserved to jump up. I think I was just more concerned because they brought over Kalen DeBoer's right hand man and Ryan Grubb. He didn't have him last year, where it's like when he really has success, he usually has that guy, Ryan Grubb. So they brought him in. And then that week one performance was so putrid, but it's nice to see them get back on track. And maybe there were just some growing pains. And Florida State was really ready for that game. So I think there's just a lot of things that went into it. And I mean, this Alabama team, I do think they're good. I think they just got caught lacking in week one,
Mhm.
and they definitely look better now. And I mean, to go on the road against a Georgia team that was number 5 and that really doesn't lose at home, and they hadn't lost at home in a while. And so to go on the road like that, especially being not that great of a road team yourselves, and to do something like that, it really was a great performance, Jack.
Yeah, it was for sure. And this is another huge test. They've already been tested a couple of times this season, but this next one against Vanderbilt, this is really going to show for either team that really who's for real and who's like atop the SEC 100%.
Right.
Because if Vanderbilt wins this game, I mean, that this will put a lot of people on watch. And I think they can
Right.
do it. And they're not as bad as the AP poll suggests they are because they have such an electric offense. And we'll see if the
Right.
defense can do better against the Crimson Tide. But
Mhm.
this is going to be a really good game.
Right. Yeah, and I mean it's going to be really interesting. And Alabama gets to host it this time. They had to go on the road at Vanderbilt last year. Now they host Vanderbilt, and I mean Vanderbilt really does look good. And they went well. Vanderbilt seems like they're a pretty good road team too because they went on the road at
Yeah.
South Carolina and housed them. So then you wonder like if they go on the road at Alabama. I think Alabama's definitely better. I think South Carolina was just a little fraudulent and a little less complete than we had thought going into the season. But I mean, this is really going to be a tricky test for both teams because I feel like Vanderbilt's not getting the proper respect that they deserve in the rankings quite yet. And this win would definitely do that, where it's like Alabama still has a lot to prove, where it's like post the Florida State loss, even though they beat Georgia, I think people are still saying like until they put them understandably in like the top 5 category, they need to prove it a little more, where it's like, it's not like an Illinois level of proving yourselves like that bad, but I definitely think that obviously would be a huge win for them against Vanderbilt. So that's going to be really interesting and a huge, a kind of semi rivalry where it hadn't been for a while because I mean Alabama just kills them every time, right? But now Vanderbilt won last year, so that's going to be really interesting next week, Jack.
Yeah, for sure. And if Vanderbilt loses, hopefully they don't get disrespected and get thrown out of the top 25 because I don't think it'll be a blowout. I think this will be a close one because I think Vanderbilt's still a great team, but this could really go either way.
Right,
So we'll just have to see.
right. Yeah, that one's going to be really interesting. And I mean, Alabama just really played great. And I mean, on the road, like Alabama's a good team, and I definitely give them a lot more respect in my rankings this week. And I mean, 23 it was pretty low, but I feel like it was understandable until they had a great performance. Where even if they lost this game, I was going to say, you know what, they were pretty competitive against the Georgia team that was really great that wins at home. Where it's like that Florida State game, it's just the fact that they weren't in it at all that was the main problem for me, Jack.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that score is way closer than that game suggests. They were really never in that game,
Right.
and just a few garbage time touchdowns made that closer. But they look like a completely different team than they did week one. So, yeah. Yeah, so this next one, Iowa versus Indiana. This was a closer one. I mean, this Iowa had chances to win this game, and they
Hmm.
this definitely put a scare in the Hoosiers for sure, because they
Right.
definitely could have gave this one away. So, what do you think about this one?
Yeah, I think they just came in with a lot of confidence and maybe overlooked Iowa a little bit after that win against Illinois was so huge. And I mean, going on the road, it's tricky in the Big Ten, and we've seen that where Michigan really struggled going on the road against Nebraska, or even though they won that game and maybe more handily than the score would make you think so, there's still certain things where like home field advantage definitely plays a part. And that was definitely huge in this one as I was there. Like it was really loud. And I mean, Indiana, it's really tricky because Indiana had a pick like in the last like 3 minutes that really should have cost them the game because Iowa ends up driving down and really should be getting a field goal. Like they're at a 3rd and 5, and it's their backup QB, and they end up not getting it, and then they kick a field goal, and then they miss it. Where it's like now Indiana, like not only like a field goal would win it. Now obviously they ended up getting a touchdown, but it's like there's a lot of missed opportunities from Iowa. And I mean, if they get that first down on 3rd and 5, they win this game. That's what's crazy. It's like Indiana, I still think they're pretty good, and I know that's a tough place to play, and that's a great defense, but it's like Indiana really should have lost. And I know it's not saying much because I know Iowa didn't play great on the offensive side of the ball, but it's like the way Iowa was still in this game when like their offense was really not playing well, where it's like Indiana, I know they don't do great on the road, but like it was really surprising. And I mean, I know Iowa's defense is great, obviously. We all know that, but it's like you wouldn't expect Indiana to really perform this way and really so poorly after such a great performance last week, where like their first touchdown that only happened because Iowa threw a pick inside their own 20. And so they ended up scoring right away. The defense didn't even get a chance to try to stop them through the length of the field, where it's like that feels like kind of the story with Iowa a lot, where like their offense ends up putting their defense into difficult spots that they're not really able to get out of for understandable reasons. So I mean, expected Indiana to do a lot better. Was pleasantly surprised with Iowa's performance, but really hurts because they really should have won this game.
Yeah, I mean, they absolutely could have. I mean, that field goal could have completely changed the game because now if you make that field goal, you go up by 3, and now you have to kick the ball off to them. And then even if they get into good field position, they're still playing to tie, obviously. But when you miss that, you give them great field position, and they have a ton of time left on the clock. So they're just, and the defense is already gassed from before. So it was just
Right.
tough. I mean, this definitely was a huge test, and this is just another game where just Iowa cannot pull it out against ranked opponents. That's the 11th straight loss against ranked
Right.
teams. And both the Iowa State game and this Indiana
Mhm.
game, they're both winnable games. And most of them are winnable. I mean, it's just, they just can't pull it out. I don't know what it is, but yeah.
Right. Yeah. I mean, Iowa definitely struggles in these types of situations, but this one felt like maybe they had a little bit of a better chance. I mean, Indiana ended up doing so well against Illinois, so it was kind of scary. But then it's like, well, they get this one in Iowa, but it's really tricky. And I mean, it's just really unfortunate because Iowa really should have won. And it's like if Gronowski doesn't go out, maybe. But it's like even when Gronowski was in, like the offense was so ineffective. And then the backup ends up going in, and on a second play, they forced him to throw 2 times in a row. First one really should have been picked, and the second one did get picked. Where it's like, what are we doing? And that one was just really unfortunate. And the Hawkeyes could have easily had it; would have been a huge upset. But
Mhm.
they end up dropping it in a game that they really should have won. Then we had
Yeah.
number 23 BYU going on the road at Colorado. This one was really interesting, and Dion and company came ready, and they were winning for most of this game, but they end up letting BYU back into it, and BYU ends up stealing it 24-21. Jack.
Yeah. I mean, we saw this game early on, and it seemed like BYU was going to lose this game for sure. Colorado had control of it early on with 2
Mm-hmm.
quick touchdowns in the first quarter, but then they just could not get anything else going on the field
Right.
with multiple 3-and-outs, and then they kind of let BYU back in the game. Well, 2 straight touchdowns for them, so then it would be tied. And then um, they just, it was a close. I mean, Colorado should have had this one. And this week 1 versus Georgia Tech, where Georgia Tech had a bunch of turnovers and they still pulled it out. Colorado is just having some trouble just finishing games, especially with the one at Houston, too. All 3 of their losses, they could have pulled out for sure. So I still think they're a good team. They just have trouble finishing games.
Right. Yeah. I think you're right. And I mean, this BYU, I mean, it's really tricky because I feel like they're one of those teams that's kind of ranked on the outskirts. And I could definitely see them being unranked very easily because they haven't really had anything uber impressive. And I mean, this one, they really should have lost. And I know Colorado, their losses aren't bad because like they lost to Georgia Tech. It's like, that's not terrible. And then they lost to a Houston team that's undefeated. So it's like you can see how they kind of got those losses, but this was a game that they really could have won, and they were at home. And I don't know, they at a certain point they just decided to stop scoring, I suppose. BYU ended up
Because
playing a lot better later on.
Dion's a good coach, and he can get those guys ready.
Right.
Salter, I think, is QB. They just couldn't pull this one out. And it was interesting to see BYU is still ranked after this one. I mean, it was a close victory, I guess, but they kind of put stake into undefeated teams a little bit too much.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I think you're right. And we'll see how BYU doesn't goes going forward. But yeah, we'll really see because like they haven't lost, but I mean they almost lost to a Colorado team that's now a 3-loss team, and I'm not too high on them. They haven't really played anybody yet, so we'll have to see how their season shakes out. Then Jack, with this new segment, who do you think had the best uniforms this week?
Probably Arizona State or Ole Miss. Those baby blues are always really good on the field. But I would probably say Arizona State, which kind of remind me of Rutgers last week with the all black. I just always think that's so sharp looking. So, yeah.
Right. Yeah, I think you're right. And I mean, certain contenders were certainly organs that they wore on the road at Penn State. And I mean, as you said, those Ole Miss ones were pretty solid. I mean, a lot of these teams they're great, and I know their overall uniforms weren't like exceptional, but I mean, if you see Indiana's helmet is one of the cleanest ones in the country. But when it comes to uniforms, yeah, I mean, Arizona State, I think they definitely take that, and it's interesting because it feels like Oregon's probably going to take a lot of these, but Arizona State with that black one, and then with the trident was like sideways. It was a very interesting change up of their uniforms, Jack, and the blackouts are always a nice look.
Yeah, I mean, they're so clean on the field. I mean, it's always to see a blackout. Always nice to see that. With I just mentioned that those Rutgers uniforms last week, those were just so clean looking. I think Oregon had it last week with the marble kind of look they had going on against the
Right.
Beavers. But yeah, I think
Mhm.
Arizona State had this.
Yeah, I think so as well. Arizona State, those were so
Yeah.
clean. And I mean, blackouts usually do pretty well, and they did really well. And it really went well with the yellow that they were trying to do. Honestly, it was a great combo. And I mean, their logo is so great, and then the way they were able to
Yeah.
flip it, and like it still looks really great. Arizona State, that was a great logo, and I'm glad that they're trying something new because at the college football level, we don't always see that outside of maybe Oregon. But very happy that they did that because it really was a great look. Now, who do you think was the best performing offense, Jack?
I think it would be either probably Vanderbilt is best offense. Um, they just
Yeah,
or Notre Dame. Either one of those just looked so solid. But I think you could really go either way with this one because Jeremiah Smith with 4 touchdowns in the first half, and then Pavia with 6 touchdowns. Both of these offenses are so electric. So
right.
yeah, what would you go with?
Yeah. I feel like you kind of got to go with Virginia as well because I
You
feel
mean
like,
Vanderbilt?
no, I mean Virginia.
Virginia? I mean, they had really? I mean, they had a lot of picks.
Oh, I meant their offense. I think their offense did the best.
Really?
And I mean, you're talking about, well, Jack, think about it. Let's think about it. The Vanderbilt team, they played Utah State at home. Like I feel like this is the team. Like they played number 8 in the country, and I mean they put up 46 points, including a ton in the overtime
Yeah.
period, and probably should have won in like the regular time. Where it's like think about it. I mean, like I know Vanderbilt played great, and I know that was exceptional, but I think a quality of opponent matters. And Florida State, like their defense looked great against Alabama and everyone else that they played, and what Virginia was able to do, I think, was really great, Jack.
Okay. Yeah. I guess I kind of see it. Yeah, I guess quality opponent is there. But I would also throw Notre Dame in there. I guess yeah, 46 points on a great Florida State team is impressive. Um,
Mhm.
but I still think Vanderbilt had the most like electric offense um, with no turnovers and just yeah.
Yeah, I can certainly see that, but I mean, it's just when you're talking about quality of opponents, like is 55 on Utah State as impressive as 46 on Florida State, a top 10 team?
Right.
Is 56 as impressive against Arkansas compared to 46? On Florida State, I think it's just a quality opponent thing. And I know they did better when it turns to the metrics. I can definitely see that, and I see where you're coming from. It's just like Virginia wasn't really supposed to play like this. Like this kind of came out of nowhere. And I know like the line was getting closer towards the game, but I mean Florida State was still a top 10 team. Like they're still a great team. And what Virginia was able to do on their offense, like against Florida State, was impressive. It really was. And I mean, that's the thing is that they were underdogs.
Yeah.
Like Utah State wasn't supposed to win. Arkansas
Right.
wasn't supposed to win.
Right.
That's what makes it so impressive. And when you watch that game, they don't win that game without what their offense was able to do. Like, and I
Yeah.
know their defense ended up clutching up, but yeah, that's in double overtime where they were finally able to stop them. And maybe they shouldn't have because the Florida State guy kind of dropped that touchdown. So it's like I feel like it's Virginia, but I feel like you go any other way. It's just about quality of opponent and then the stats, obviously. I mean, Notre Dame, Vanderbilt, Virginia, kind of take your pick between those three, I think. But yeah, I think you're right, Jack.
Okay. Yeah. So getting into that, best upset, I think, absolutely goes to Virginia here. You could
Right.
go a
Oh,
couple
without
different,
question.
without questions. I mean, you could go Alabama, but they definitely had a better shot. You could go Arizona State, or I guess Oregon was an underdog, I guess. Um, and oh, I guess Illinois was also an underdog, but it's Virginia without question. I mean, nobody thought they were going to win this game, even at home in that tough environment. Um, and just like you said, Virginia's offense played really well, and they hung true in double overtime, and their defense clutched up. I mean, yeah, and they
Right.
had adversity going through that game against a really tough team. So
Right. And when you're looking at those other upsets, you're either talking about teams that were kind of low in the top 25 that were beaten by teams that were just on the outskirts, or you're talking about ranked teams that beat another ranked team. Where I feel like this is the most impressive because you're talking about a Florida State team that was ranked eighth and probably should have been higher that got beaten by a team that was they were unranked. And now they are ranked purely because, they won that game and deservingly so. But like they weren't supposed to win. They were unranked against the Florida State team that was really good, that had great performances against Alabama. So it's like I certainly agree. And I feel like it's just the fact that Florida State was ranked so high and Virginia wasn't ranked at all that makes this upset so surprising, Jack.
yeah, absolutely. And I think we'll continue to talk about how impressive this upset is. I know they lost against NC State, but this team is really good, and they deserve to be ranked. And this is
Right.
still a very good football team. Yeah.
Right. What do you think was the best performing defense this week, Jack?
I had a couple that I was going to go with. I was either going to go with Iowa or Texas A&M. I think reasons I was kind of going to go with Iowa is just of how impressive Indiana's offense was last week,
Right.
and 63 top 10 opponent was certainly very impressive. Um,
Mhm.
but I am going to go with Texas A&M here. I just think Auburn is still an amazing team. They were at home,
Right.
um, and Iowa was also at home, but like no third down or fourth down conversions, 177,
Right.
under 200 yards total offense for Auburn, and then just over 50 yards rushing.
Mhm.
Texas A&M really showed that like their defense could be just as lethal as their offense. So yeah,
Right. Yeah, that's a good one, but I feel like Ohio State's defense maybe was a little bit better. Maybe you say like quality of opponent, but both Auburn and Washington were just on the outskirts, or at least should have been of being ranked. Where it's like Washington had the highest scoring offense, and Ohio State completely swallowed them up. And Ohio State ended up pulling away and scored 10 points in the fourth quarter. But like this game, the fact that it was relatively close, and Ohio State, it felt like they had such a grip on it, was really a testament to their defense. The reason like it never really felt in question because it's like, yeah, it's decently close, but it's like Washington's can't do anything. where I think Ohio State definitely was up there as well.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And to do it away at a tough place to play, that's also factors in. Um, yeah, I
Right,
just think earlier in the game they were able to put more points up on the board, but absolutely, Ohio State is absolutely there, just holding a good Washington offense to only 6 points. So yeah, they're definitely in the conversation.
right. I mean, you're talking about Williams Jr., who's a great dual threat, the guy. And I know they factor in sacks with running, unfortunately. I don't know why they do that, but on the official stat book, he had negative 28 rushing yards, where it's like you can really see just how Ohio State was able to neutralize him.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. Man, it really was a great week of college football, and all of the atmospheres was great. We didn't really see many field storms other than Virginia, which was so epic. But the overtime thrillers we got, the great games, and I mean, just the grass, just the elements, just everything about college football and everything that makes it so great. And we really saw that this week. And I don't say it lightly. Like it really was one of the better weeks that I've ever seen, and it's up there for sure. And I mean, it just feels like just about every single game was just really incredible, and not just the upsets where it's just like the ranked matchups, the games that should have been ranked matchups. Feels like across the board, it really was a great week, and it really just makes me more and more excited to continue. And honestly, we'll have to see if any week rivals it because it's really a great week, and I mean, just a lot of great games, and really excited to see how these teams do going forward. And next week has a lot of great games too, so I feel like the year's just going to keep getting better and better, Jack.
Yeah, absolutely. And to your point, there is um, it's definitely on paper not as good as this week, which it's going to be hard for any week to rival that
Mhm.
one. But
Right.
yeah, for Big Noon Saturday, you got Wisconsin, Michigan, Iowa State, Cincinnati, Kentucky, Georgia, Illinois, Purdue, Vanderbilt, Alabama, Boise State, Notre Dame, Texas, Florida, Penn State, UCLA, Minnesota, Ohio State, Texas Tech, Houston, Virginia, Louisville, Miami, Florida State. That's a good one. Yeah, so there is some good games. Mississippi State, Texas A&M. Um, it definitely could be a great week. It could be like week 4 kind of was, where on paper it looks
Right.
great. And there's some good games there, but it just won't live up to it. Or maybe it'll be rivaling this week. We'll never know um, until we get
Right.
there. So yeah, definitely hyped for it for sure.
Right. Yeah, we'll have to see how that plays out next week. But at the moment, I mean, this week was really so incredible, and it really was a great week just to show how great college football is. Because we talk about how great the overtime rules is. Got many examples of that. Saw a great field rush. Saw great games played on real grass. Like college football is great, and I mean, it really is satisfying to see a week like this. I mean, football is back, and I know we've been saying that for a week, but like it doesn't feel real. Where it's like, I hate that we go so long without football, and it's like, especially college football. I just love college football so much, and especially this week, it was really incredible and showed everything that's really great about the sport. So, yeah, appreciate you for joining the program, Jack.
Yeah, absolutely. Anytime. Like, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, of course. And I mean, maybe we won't see a week that rivals this, but I mean, this week was just so incredible, so I wouldn't even be mad because I mean, college football has been consistently giving us great games, and that's definitely not going to stop anytime soon because college football is here to stay, and it's amazing, and we're going to have college football all the way through January. That's great news. So college football is really here, and I'm really excited to preview and recap all these games, and it's been really exciting to cover college football in this way and to talk about these games like this. It's just really exciting because college football is great, and I know the NFL is kind of more popular, but I don't think it should be because college football is electric and it's amazing, and we're gonna have games all the way through January, so it's gonna be really awesome, and I'm really excited for the rest of the season. This is the Ben Buzz starring Benny King, and thanks for tuning in.